Hey everybody, and welcome once again to Nose in the Book, a Bible reading commentary with me, your host, Pastor Justin Van Reed. Great to have you with me once again as we take a look at 5 chapters from the Word of God today. We have from the book of Leviticus, chapter 17, and then we have Psalm 20 and 21. Then we have Proverbs, the final chapter. We're going to finish up the book of Proverbs here today with Proverbs 31. And then in the New Testament, we have 1 Timothy chapter 2. So let's get right into these. First of all, Leviticus 17 is mainly about proper place for sacrifices, and not just sacrifices, but actually any kind of eating or of any animal. And so these are some rules about where it can be done. For example, if you are going to sacrifice an animal, it must be brought to the tabernacle. So um, this would keep Israel from just offering sacrifices anywhere and everywhere that they wanted to. And this could that could lead to idolatry. It could lead to, worshiping false gods and things like that. And so you can't just offer your sacrifice anywhere. You bring it to the tabernacle, make sure the priest will take care of the blood, sprinkle it on the altar, everything like that. At no point is blood to be drank. So no matter how the animal is acquired, the blood must be poured out, covered up. If you're gonna, if you go hunting and you kill some food that you're going to eat, then you have to drain the animal of its blood and you have to cover it up. And if you have not hunted for the animal but just came upon it, so it just died of natural causes, or another animal had attacked it, something like that, then if you eat that, then you are unclean and must wash. And if you do not wash, then it is great sin. And so these are some various rules about the proper way to partake of animals. And so again, not to be eaten away from the tabernacle. If it is a sacrificial animal, you must bring it and have the blood splattered on the altar. And anyway, if you do want to eat something, even so that you're allowed to eat away from the tabernacle, but if you hunted it or from your flock, something like this, then all of the blood must be drained out. All right, Psalm 20 and 21. So in Psalm 20 is really a call to look to the Lord in times of trouble. And so that's why you have a lot of mays here. May the Lord answer your cry. May the name of God of Jacob keep you safe from all harm. May he remember you. May he grant your heart's desires. May he shout for joy. So this is, in times of trouble, what should you do? You should look to the Lord. And then the prayer really here is, and may God answer your prayer. May God do all of these things. May God come to your aid. May God, come and help you and give you victory. And then there's a prayer for the king. This really leads into Psalm 21 here at the end of the chapter. Give victory to our king, O Lord. Answer our cry for help. And this, as I said, will go into chapter 21. But first, it's a great line here in chapter 20. Some nations boast of their chariots and horses, but we boast in the name of the Lord our God. Other nations and unbelievers, they trust in all kinds of things, trust in all kinds of worldly things, trust in all kinds of material things. We trust in the Lord, and that's where our hope is, and that is very wise to do. So, as I said, the last line here about give victory to the king leads into Psalm 21, which is in essence a prayer of thanks to God for helping the king, for coming and answering and giving the king victory. And so how the king rejoices in your strength, O Lord, and you have welcomed him back. He asked you to preserve his life. You granted his request. Your victory brings him great honor. You have done so. God, you've done all of these things for the sake of your king who leads your people. And so this is good for your king. This is good for your people. But then also the second half of this, how the Lord punishes Israel's enemies. You will capture all your enemies. And also notice that the enemies of Israel are God's enemies, right? So the Lord will consume them and his enemies in his anger. You will wipe their children from the face of the earth. And on he goes here, and then concludes with a prayer. Rise up, O Lord, in all your power. With music and singing, we celebrate your mighty acts. And so that's what we have in Psalm 20 and 21. All right, Proverbs 31 and 1 Timothy 2 are our final two chapters. Both of them, interestingly enough, have to do, with men and women, but in particular, Proverbs 31 has this long poem about an excellent wife or excellent woman. And 1 Timothy 2 also is going to give some important instructions concerning women. But as I said, there's some things here for men as well. First of all, in the beginning half of Proverbs 31, talks about, again, the king. This time, don't guzzle wine. Right? It's not for kings to not be sober, not for the ruler. Those in the leadership and authority need to have a clear mind about themselves. But he says, rather, alcohol is for the dying and wine for those in bitter distress. Let them drink to forget their poverty and remember their troubles no more. Now, today, we often will give things that will have the same effect or similar effect as alcohol to those who are suffering, to those who are close to death, in order to ease their pain, is a lot of times what we say. So we don't give it so much as a matter of them escaping from the bitter distress and poverty and difficulties of this life as we do from the pain, but only as they come to the very end of life. And so it's interesting, this seems to have some precedence here in Proverbs 31. Then, as I said, most of this chapter is taken up with this wife of noble character, or an excellent wife, and who can find just the rarity and the special blessing that such a woman is. And when you read through this, and what you learn is that these women are hard workers. They get a lot done. Not only are they taking care of things at home, but they're taking care of things outside of the home. They're known, and they are good at things like real estate transactions, right? She goes, inspects a field, buys it, plants a vineyard. She's energetic and strong, a hard worker, right? She's profitable. She's working late into the night. She's making clothes for her family. So she's a great provider. She's providing. She's working. She's making a living, bringing home that bacon to feed the family. She's working, making the clothes, making the various things for the house, and she can just do it all. That's really what it comes down to. It sounds like she can just do it all, this kind of wife. And then he ends here with this: her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. And then this important line here, and this is going to connect with 1 Timothy 2. Love when things like this line up, and clearly this lines up. Proverbs 31, verse 30, and 1 Timothy 2. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. So what is the ultimate value? Right? It's a woman who wisely obeys God, trusts the Lord, seeks after him, not one who is defined as the way the world would define a great woman. It's charmful, it's beauty, all of those things. No, it's a woman who fears the Lord. And that leads, as I said, into 1 Timothy chapter 2. And these are some instructions about the corporate worship, public worship, as the church gathers here. And he talks about prayer at the beginning of this, and how men ought to pray. We all ought to pray, he says, for those in authority, kings, and those who rule over us. This is how we can live peaceful and quiet lives with godliness and dignity. This is how we can go about accomplishing the mission that God has given us. So we want to pray for peace. We want to pray for the government. We want to pray for those in leadership, that they would lead wisely and rightly. And then, but ultimately it's God who's in control here. And so he says, all right, I want the men to pray with holy hands lifted up to God, free from anger and controversy. So men, don't be bickering, don't be fighting, don't be complaining, right? Don't be like that, but free from anger, free from controversy, pray. And women also are to pray, but he wants them to be modest in their appearance. This is his focus here, that they would be about good deeds and not looks. And he talks about, again, just like how charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. Here he talks about that women who claim to be devoted to God should make themselves attractive by the good things they do. And so that's what he commends here for the women. And then lastly here, last paragraph, 1 Timothy 2, the instruction that women are not to have authority over men in the church in the sense of having this teaching role. He says, I do not let women teach men or usurp authority or have authority over them. And so this, I believe, is specifically talking about this role in the church for women that is reserved for men, so that not that there would be absolute silence. Obviously, if you bring in other scriptures in the New Testament, there's times when women will speak in church, but here the idea being that they would not be you take the authority that is reserved for the men as the elder leadership in the church and those who would have the job of teaching and preaching the congregation. All right, that's all we have time for today. Again, we have Leviticus 17 and don't drink that blood. We have Psalm 20 and 21 and the blessing for the king of Israel and how great it is when the Lord gives victory to his people and punishes his enemies. Proverbs 31 and an excellent wife who can find. And then 1 Timothy 2, pray for those in authority. Pray, men, with holiness, with lifted hands. Do not be angry, and women, be about good deeds, not looks, and don't try to take the authority that God has given to men in the church. All right, that's all we have time for today. Hope that you had a good time in the Lord's Word today, and we'll hopefully see you again soon. Until then, keep your eyes on the Lord and your nose in the book. Thanks.